Tonight, our special coverage on Israel's war in Palestine as Palestinian children face worsening psychological trauma. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I'm Aisha Ashraf. Today is the 32nd day since Israel launched its indiscriminate attack on Palestine. Israel's ongoing strikes in Gaza continue. In the past one day, 214 Palestinians have been killed. The past 24 hours have witnessed Israeli air raids across Gaza, targeting Al-Shifa and Indonesian hospitals, Khan Yunis, Nusayrat, and Jabalia refugee camps. Palestinian children held a press conference at Al-Shifa Hospital urging the international community to address child victims. According to the Palestinian Ministry of Health, around 4,000 Palestinian children have lost their lives since Israel started bombing Palestine. The international community of the Red Cross reports that its convoy Vital Medical Supplies has been targeted in Gaza. It has damaged 2 trucks and a wounded driver. United Nations Special Envoy Martin Griffiths is expressing grave concern over the deteriorating conditions. In a tweet, Griffiths says Israeli attacks are causing rising displacement and settler attacks. Israeli pre-dawn raids have rocked the West Bank. Several Palestinians, including 2 senior journalists from Hebron, have been arrested by the Israeli forces. Israeli forces enter the campus of Birzeit University, one of the largest institutions in the occupied West Bank. The UN Agency for Refugees says another of its staff members has died. The total death toll of UN staffers has now risen to 89. Israel's military has confirmed 1 soldier's death and 2 injured during confrontations in northern Gaza. Reports from Gaza reveal a significant exodus of civilians toward the southern regions. Thousands of people carrying white flags are moving south, hoping for some form of safety. The Israeli military justifies its actions. It says its focus is on targeting Hamas infrastructure and weapons facilities. At the time of writing, at least 10,569 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli attacks. More than 1,400 Israelis have been killed since October 7th. In the international arena, Saudi Arabia has announced plans to host summits in Arab, African, and Islamic nations to discuss Israel's war. President Biden has urged Prime Minister Netanyahu to seek what he calls a pause in the Gaza fighting. The U.S. House of Representatives has voted to censure Rashida Tlaib, the only Palestinian American in Congress. In a joint statement, top diplomats from the G7's nation have condemned Hamas while backing Israel's right to self-defense. The diplomats are also calling for humanitarian pauses to provide relief in the besieged region. Brandeis University near Boston has made headlines by banning a student chapter of the National Students for Justice in Palestine. The university cites the group's open support for Hamas. Hamas is a designated foreign terrorist organization by the United States and Canada. A Spanish minister is urging the government to suspend diplomatic relations with Israel. The social rights minister, Ioni Becerra, cites a planned genocide against the Palestinian people as a reason to cut diplomatic relations with Israel. Becerra says Spain should take a stronger stance against Israel's genocide. She is calling for a European-level debate to impose severe economic sanctions on those held responsible for the ongoing crisis. The news comes as international calls for an immediate ceasefire and peaceful resolution in the Gaza conflict become louder. So far, 9 countries have pulled their ambassadors from Israel since it's launched a war against Palestine a month ago. These are South Africa, Jordan, Turkey, Chile, Colombia, Chad, Honduras, Bahrain, and Bolivia. South Africa has long supported the Palestinian cause. It links Palestinian cause to its historical struggle against apartheid. A new term is being coined for the surviving Palestinian children in Israel's war, as a staggering number of children are arriving at Palestinian hospitals without surviving family members for medical care. A new acronym, WCNSF, is being used to describe the situation. WCNSF stands for Wounded Child, No Surviving Family. Data by humanitarian organization Save the Children shows 404 families in Gaza have lost 2 to 5 members. 192 families have lost 10 or more members. The loss of family support is exacerbating the trauma experienced by the surviving children. Save the Children says the violence has stripped away coping mechanisms and safe spaces for these children. It says the children are in constant state of fear and uncertainty. Symptoms of trauma, such as nightmares and emotional withdrawal, are pervasive. Israel's bombing in Gaza has claimed the lives of 4,008 Palestinian children. 1,270 children are missing and presumed buried under the rubble. Another 43 Palestinian children have been tragically killed in the occupied West Bank. Save the Children's country director for the occupied Palestinian territory, Jason Lee, says his organization is out of words to articulate the scale of children's suffering. It is calling for an immediate ceasefire and a commitment to protecting the well-being of Palestinian children. Jordan's UN envoy says there is a vast difference in the global responses to the tragic loss of innocent lives in 2 different conflict zones. Mahmoud Hammoud pointed out that in a month, more than 4,000 Palestinian children have died in Israeli airstrikes. This is a stark comparison to the 600 Ukrainian children that have died in the last 2 years as a result of the Russian invasion. Hammoud says he regrets having to make this comparison. He says all human lives, whether Israeli, Palestinian, or Ukrainian, are equally important. He says, however, there is an apparent double standard of the international community in dealing with these 2 crises. He calls it attitude as, quote, outrageous. He says urgent action should be taken to stop the loss of innocent lives. A delegation from Islamic Relief Canada, an emergency relief organization, is calling for an urgent and immediate ceasefire in Gaza. During a press conference held at Parliament Hill in Ottawa, Osama Khan, CEO of Islamic Relief Canada, said that the catastrophe unfolding in Gaza is of an unprecedented scale. Khan says that Israel's war is affecting as many as 2 million people who are enduring collective punishment. He says the government's calling for a humanitarian pause is insufficient. Khan says the government of Canada should demand an immediate ceasefire. He says Islamic Relief Canada office in Gaza has been bombed and destroyed. One member of the organization has died, along with all of his family members. Khan says a petition for ceasefire initiated by Islamic Relief Canada has garnered an impressive 170,000 endorsements to date. In a separate meeting, representatives from the National Council for Canadian Muslims and the Muslim Association of Canada met with Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford. During the meeting, they conveyed deep concerns of Ontario's Muslim community regarding the Gaza crisis. They also discussed the far-reaching impacts on Muslim families and the Palestinian diaspora residing in Ontario. The Muslim leaders raised the issue of suppressing the legitimate expression of Palestinian rights and contributing to the rise of Islamophobia in schools and workplaces. And in related news, a recent poll commissioned by the National Council of Canadian Muslims shows more than 71% of Canadians strongly support the call for a ceasefire in Gaza. The poll shows that the majority of Liberal, New Democratic Party, and Conservative supporters are rallying behind the hashtag Canada for Ceasefire. 77% of Canadians are urging for diplomatic intervention to bring an end to the conflict and ensure that humanitarian aid reaches the people of Gaza. Stephen Brown, CEO of the National Council of Canadian Muslims, says these overwhelming numbers cannot be ignored. Brown says Canadians have made their voices clear. He says Canadians reject further escalation of conflict and are advocating for peace. Thank you for watching. Our news is produced by Muslim Network TV, which is a not-for-profit organization. We need your support for donations. Please scan the QR code on our broadcast or visit muslimnetwork.tv to donate now, so we can continue to amplify the voices of Muslims in Canada and abroad.